All we do is movies, Donny.
Hi, my name is Noelle.
Yep. We've all got a nice night's sleep. We're all here.
Today after I worked all morning,
Okay.
today after I worked all morning at my job, we saw a film for the first time in about 3 months.
In about 12 months.
That's always the best time to see a film is when you're sleep deprived.
Yep, at this great time for film watching.
Feel crazy.
Yeah, 'cause we saw a crazy movie.
Oh yeah, it was so crazy.
Yeah, it was the craziest movie of the summer called Venom.
The summer, right? Because it's 80 degrees in October. Well into October. It's not like October 1st.
I'm sweating.
October 9th.
I'm sweating.
So we saw Venom.
We sure did.
5 words, go.
Venom.
Bland.
Movie.
Long. Go.
Boring. For the first part.
I'm done.
Well, we're back.
I'm gonna
Technical
I'm gonna
difficulties.
just take a big L on the last words because I don't have the mental capacity to think of more words. So go ahead, keep going.
I was going to say Venom is a very generic movie. For at least the first part.
Word. We'll get into it.
What?
Venom is like a summer blockbuster where like it's just loud and you know what to expect out of everything, but it's not summer.
No, it's theoretically another Marvel movie, but made by Sony.
Which,
I think it's Sony.
whoever it is, not a great job.
Could have been Fox. I think it was Sony. I don't remember, but I do think it was Sony. And it's one of those movies where they think that you're going to think that it's a Marvel movie, but they don't have any rights to anyone else. So it's just off to the side doing something else. And you're like, why are we doing this? Is how you feel when you're watching it.
I agree. I wanted to do it because the character of Venom seemed interesting, but
He is cool.
I don't like
they are
how
cool.
he looked in this film. Venom, like himself, I didn't like how his CGI was, and I didn't necessarily care for Tom Hardy. So
Whoa! Well, anyway, spoiler-free Venom's about Eddie Brock. He's in the Spider-Man universe, but for some reason, this isn't the Spider-Man universe. It's totally different. Instead of being in New York, they're in San Francisco. And
he came from New York to San
right.
Francisco.
Yeah, they have a lot of little like wink. We can't say we're in the same, time frame as the Avengers, but we'll pretend we are. And yeah, so it's set in San Francisco and it's the same kind of idea. He eventually he's like some sort of reporter, and then he gets the symbiote.
Like a hard-hitting news journalist on
Yeah.
cable TV. He's Brock.
Yeah, he's like a Vice News.
He gets the real stories, and he talks like this all the time.
Yeah, he's from the streets. He's from the streets. He's tough. But yeah, so he's doing that, and then, things happen. He gets the symbiote on him, and he becomes Venom.
And like all good movies where something bad happens to the main character, he... Spoiler alert.
Whoa, spoiler!
Whoop, 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 boop. He has this amazing relationship where her pictures are all over the laptop, and there's a swear word, and they just focus a lot on the relationship, so you know it's gonna end.
Yeah, no, it starts really, it's set up to be a little too perfect, and then of course 5 minutes later it all falls apart.
Right.
Because he has to sneak into her emails because she just... It's the longest unlock screen of all time, apparently. Because it seems like it's been sitting there on the screensaver playing a slideshow of all their memories And he notices that the email comes in, but then the password screen suddenly comes up, and then he has the dilemma of having to, like, use her password and look at the email and stuff, which is weird.
It didn't really seem like that much of a dilemma, to be
No.
honest.
I mean, she's leaving her computer wide open.
Well, she should trust her significant other, her fiance, to not go into her laptop.
But
and
he's
read
a
her
sleuth.
But it's a classified document, which, as you'll see,
classified.
It said classified
They're
on
sending
the
it through
document.
Google.
What?
They're sending it through Gmail.
Well, it said classified, and it could get her fired, so we shouldn't have looked at it. So everyone's at fault here.
Yeah.
But like the whole beginning seemed like it didn't matter because he was like, just checked over his shoulder a bunch of times. Okay, cool. I'll end my marriage over this.
And that's how you know he's a flawed character that needs to grow by the end of the movie.
And I bet he will.
And that's the whole
perfect timing.
Yeah, that's the whole problem with the movie is
just to save the world, just in the nick of time. Eddie
Yeah.
Brock.
Yeah. So the whole beginning of the movie doesn't need to exist.
Word.
It's very boring, and it's like super cookie cutter. Like guess what? Another evil corporation is doing something that seems good, but they're
testing pharmaceuticals on. And they're called the Life Foundation. So I guess what they're doing is killing people.
Death. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So he's supposed to be like, of course, like an Elon Musk guy gone bad, and it's boring.
And he has this
really
amazing lawyer wife who brings him coffee in bed and wears
Right.
expensive suits and has perfect hair.
Yeah.
And then he also goes to this bodega in San Francisco. They have bodegas in San Fran?
I don't know.
And he goes to this Asian gas
Whoa!
station market. What was she?
Asian?
Was she not Asian?
Oh, she was.
Well,
Be more specific.
I don't know.
Chinese.
Okay, well, anyway, it doesn't matter because he goes there and, like, of course, the only day that he goes to the market is the day that the Chinese
the
market is getting held up at gunpoint.
Well, because they are under the control. See, and oh, geez. So they're being shook down.
But they only get shook down on the days that he goes.
Yeah, right. But like, it's not even that they're robbing the place; is that she has to give protection money to the local mafia, which is never addressed
No,
in
I didn't get that.
any other scene. Which might have been a cool little job for Venom to go and break up and be an anti-hero. That would have been really neat.
This
but-
isn't Deadpool.
But not well. But that's what Venom is.
I know. Yeah.
He's a bad guy that sometimes does, sometimes he does good things. And normally it's in conjunction with Spider-Man, because he hates Spider-Man. He hates Eddie Brock hates Peter Parker in the cartoons and comic books and all that. And that's what makes the character interesting. In this, he's just sort of like a wacky guy that really likes to do hard-hitting journalism. And then he wants his fiancée back. That's it. And then they sort of throw in at the end, oh, yeah, and by the way, you're sort of a superhero. It's like, oh, okay. When did that happen in the movie? Because apparently, from what I hear, 40 minutes of this movie was cut out, which, yeah, a lot of the time you're cutting out a decent chunk of the movie. But apparently, in the way the movie felt, there's a lot of disjointed parts that don't make any sense and are rushed.
But I honestly don't think I wouldn't want to sit through 40 minutes more of that.
No, but maybe 15 more minutes were like really like actually paced out scenes well. Like every single scene is like, it's like it was on a timer. They're like, can't let this linger. Let's cut this up. It needs to be under 2 minutes per whatever or something. It's like we can't spend more than 30 seconds on a shot because everything's cut so specifically where you're like, you could pace it out and be like, and the scene is over now. And then it would be. There's no... And this Ruben Fleischer dude, right?
I don't know who that is.
The director. Didn't he direct
what else did he do?
Zombieland?
I love Zombieland, so that's surprising.
Good director. Like, really solid guy. And you can see that, like, he was definitely... Someone made a decision somewhere that all the fun things you did in the movie, not so much. Like, it's going to be as boring and, like, exactly predictable as humanly possible, and no fun needs to be had. You could tell Tom Hardy thought he was having fun because someone told him to have fun. The director was like, "Hey, Tom, this scene's going to be awesome where like Venom's inside you, the symbiote's inside you, and like you know what's going on, so you're freaking out publicly, and then it's going to end with you diving into the lobster tank and eating a live lobster." And he's like, "Awesome, I'm going to kill this." And I'm sure he did. And on the day, he probably acted his ass off, and everyone was like, "Holy shit, Tom Hardy! We're so happy we spent $15 million on you or whatever it was." And then everyone clapped, and Ruben thought, he's like, "Man, this movie's going to be so good." And then the executives of Sony were like, "No, we're cutting this to pieces, and it's going to be awful."
Oh, wait, I forgot to mention Danny Egan, everybody, playing a character named Dan.
Yeah, it was good. It was easy for me because I know him from Veep as Dan.
And his name is Dan.
Yeah, so
and he's a professional who talks quickly, Dan.
I don't have to worry about him. He's a doctor in this one, so that was a little confusing.
Literally she dumps Tom Hardy.
Yes.
And then there's no timeline really to anything.
No,
so
well, it says 6 months later.
Oh, did it? I didn't see
it
that.
does say 6 months, which I thought he was gonna bring up because they play the whole thing where he's like just so happens to be by the house checking on their cat, and then he wants to be hanging out and just looking outside and being like, "I wonder what she's doing in there." But then she pulls up.
Low-key stalking.
Yeah, a little bit, but it's fun. It's small city. And then he's not doing anything wrong.
Small city?
Yeah.
Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he just ran into her.
He's going to see Mr. Bojangles.
He's going to sit outside of her
Mr.
house and
Belvedere.
search for Mr. Belvedere
Mr.
in the
Belvedere
windows.
the cat.
Yeah, okay.
Which, yeah, that's to be expected. Especially if you're part, super... I don't think he had that yet, though. He wasn't attached to the symbiote yet. But then she pulls up with old Dan, and then it's a whole weird moment. And yeah, and I thought maybe they're going to bring it back, but it's only been 6 months. She's like, "Yeah, 6 long months, Eddie, you loser."
No, but
That's a mark. I got to cut this out.
The writing was fine, but I really didn't like any of the dialogue. It was all extremely cliche. Everything was like, he was like, "Oh shit, what was that line that he just said whenever he saw her?" And he was like, "You're really gonna walk away from all of this? And we were married." And she said something witty, and I can't remember. It was so bland, and like my whole time I was just like in my head, like being like, "Okay, well, you could have said anything else, and it would have been."
Yeah.
And they all talked in like proverbs, kind of. My mom said that to get a good job, it takes patience and something else and a lot of hard work. And that's you, Eddie.
Yeah.
And then the Asian woman gets shook down for her money, and she's like, "Life is tough."
Yeah. Yeah. The dialogue's not great, but what's even worse is just the like villain and the overarching dilemma, which is the symbiotes come to Earth.
They get brought to Earth.
But they arrive on Earth from a spaceship, and it's very much like, and they even like shouted out to the Spider-Man universe a little bit, because like the astronaut that brings it back is like J. Jonah Jameson's kid, who's an astronaut.
I didn't know that.
And they do say, "Oh, that's Captain Jameson," the guy that is like killed by the symbiote, and then it starts out like that, and there's like 5 or 6 different symbiotes, and the evil Elon Musk character is trying to collect them all like a Pokemon, and then he's just like, "Yeah, we're going to use this to go to space somehow," and you're like, "What are we doing? This is confusing and not practical in any way, and just kind of dumb. Just make it so he's Venom like in the first 2 minutes, and then he's like either causing trouble or say first." So here comes the Donny Thomas corner here, everybody. Take a little nap. So here's what should have happened that didn't. He should have gotten the symbiote. Like he should have been investigating the emergency crash of the spaceship. Elon Musk, fake scary Elon Musk should have all been set up that way. But that's the Rosh.
Ahmed.
And yeah. And he's like that's still in the back. That's how this stuff gets there. That makes sense cuz an Elon Musk character working outside the government, traveling in space, bringing shit back.
I have my own Elon Musk character.
There you go. Everyone's going to have an Elon Musk character these days. You have to. That's how you get movies greenlit.
Okay, I know.
So you have the same setup, but Tom Hardy, Eddie Rock's there snapping photos and doing his crazy journalism stuff.
And they always snap the photo with the sound on because you're sneaking around, so they have to know that you're snapping a photo. So like, who does that anymore? Come on.
I mean that's what they should have done. They should have started. They should have got him in the Venom symbiote right away, and then it would have been he's causing trouble around town. Doing kind of bad stuff because he can't control it, and then he turns it around and does good stuff. And maybe he could do good stuff against, I don't know, some sort of actual, like, supervillain, instead of, like, being grounded to reality of, like, oh, no, it's an evil corporation. Of course it is. And it's just like, wait, okay. So, and then it ends up being not only they're killing people by testing this symbiote, and like the motivation's really lacking because the dude has no sort of grounding in reality because he's just killing all these test subjects, and he's just like, yeah, keep bringing them in. Like, it's like, okay, he's obviously like a sociopathic serial killer. Do more with that. But no, it's just like, we gotta, the bottom line of the business. Like, this is what we're doing, and it's just like, stop pretending this is real. Like, this is a superhero movie, right? Like, stop actually, like, trying to make it seem, like, realistic. Turn him into a crazy...
Oh, right. And so...
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, they really try to... All their garbage about this whole beginning of this film and throughout is them trying to throw you off the trail. So they have Riz Ahmed, or Elon Musk, and he's talking to a group of school kids at his company, and it's like a field trip or something, and then like some little girl raised her hand to ask a question, and this other kid in the crowd's like, no, like, shut up. And then he has to be like, oh, we reward people who ask questions. I'm really nice and helpful. And that's like the one and then all of a sudden he's just like feeding poor people, volunteers to this alien.
And that would work if then from that moment on he was like a supervillain that you're like, oh geez, Riz Ahmed's like a real deal, like comic book scary supervillain. But no, he's just the CEO of this crazy company. And then if they do the thing where it's like, well, what's going to be the bad guy? You need a big bad guy that, I don't know, Venom can fight, so let's make it two Venoms. And it's like,
one of them is slightly lighter colored.
Slightly different and bigger and scarier.
Can be confused the entire
Which
fight
is
scene.
It's like the Iron Man 1 thing. It's like, who would Iron Man fight? I guess another Iron Man, but he has more weapons on him. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird.
And so like Venom, I guess maybe has some personalized like skill set where all he can do is like the spaghetti hands, but also everything else. And then this new big thing, all he can do is these huge like knife hands. But like Venom should be able to do the same thing because they're the same species.
I never understood that, and like I honestly never read many Venom comic books, but according to like video games and the TV shows and stuff, the cartoons. Venom is basically Spider-Man. Like, can basically do everything Spider-Man can.
I'm a dumb idiot girl corner.
Whoa!
I thought that there was like a version of Spider-Man that was Venom.
Yeah.
Like he became Venom.
That's why he looks
Spider-Man.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
it kind So you're kind of lacking like the essential thing that is
his origin.
Yeah. Why he looks like Spider-Man and has the eyes of like Spider-Man and stuff.
But then I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off, but it's my turn to talk.
Go.
But then, like in this film, I've also noticed that they just made the CGI like kind of look like the Hulk a little bit, where he's just like this Venom is like real muscular and big, but his head is like kind of small.
Right.
So he's just like pounding around, but like Spider-Man doesn't look like that. So it'd be cool if he was like more sleek and like scarier, but instead he was like the Venom was like this huge thing. It was,
well, the reason for that, which it would be cool if they explained it this way, because that would have been interesting and like made any sort of sense to the character, but. The reason why he's so buff is because Eddie Brock, after he got fired from the same paper as Peter Parker, how Topher Grace did in the movies. It's like the similar
Yeah.
kind of story. But, you know, for a while, he's so pissed off at Peter Parker. Like, he's, like, just alone in his room, like, bench pressing and, like, getting huge and jacked. And he's going to, like, beat the shit out of Peter Parker is, like, the idea. And then he gets taken over. And then just the form of him being, like, an ultra jacked bodybuilder guy is the form of Venom. But it's slightly enhanced.
That would have been cool to know.
Yeah. So Tom Hardy is jacked, but you know they don't have a reason for it. Like they could have had anything more than what they did for the setup and the whole 2/3 of the movie, and it would have been great. But no, it's just generic thing, generic plot.
This is what I would have liked to see. So
yes.
In my perfect dream world, let's add a little bit of depth to Michelle Williams' character because she was so bland. I know. Could you imagine?
Oh yeah, she did not want to be there.
No. So
every line she's like, "Oh Eddie, were we married or Eddie, we were engaged and we're not anymore." That was her, and she's normally great.
What should have happened is Michelle Williams obviously didn't want to be in that relationship, so she should have been stepping out with Dan Egan.
That would have been cool.
And then whenever Eddie Brock figures it out, that's when he gets buff.
Yeah.
And he's mad that some other guy's stepping out with his woman.
There you go.
And then he becomes Venom, and then he has a freaking reason. See, I said freaking. He's a freaking reason to be so angry. But now he's just like depressed. Like that was the whole movie. He was a loser. Yeah. And then Venom even has his voice in his head. Was like, "You're a loser."
But then they make it so Venom is like, "I was a loser too.
Okay,
we can be losers
please.
together on my home planet," and that is the part that I actually started enjoying, was the more that Venom was talking to him, and like that whole end third of the final act of the movie, minus how dumb the idea that Raz Ahmed, his plan is to fly a spaceship with the, what was it, Raid or Riot? The Riot symbiote suit was his name. Instead of Venom, his symbiote was called Riot. Because then there's Carnage, who they teased, which, oh geez, Woody Harrelson's great, but I do not think that's how Cletus Cassidy or whatever Carnage's name is in the comic. Weird choice.
Yeah, but also like it seemed like all of those dead bodies were moot, because if Razamid could just become the thing, I guess he had to test it out on like a million things, but eventually he was a perfect match for Riot.
Yeah, who would have thought?
He could have been a perfect match for Riot, and then he wouldn't have had to test any of these people. He could have just gone to space like 10 million years ago.
Or he killed so many people, but he finally found the one. Because what are the odds that he's the perfect match too? But whatever. Just the idea that
what was he planning on doing if he did find the perfect match for Riot? Was he going to enslave Riot? Razamid was going to find the perfect match for Riot and then somehow enslave him to take him up to the
Well, that's the thing.
planet.
The idea that ultimately his idea was he wanted to get it so that he could start a colony somewhere else, and he needed the symbiote to be able to live in space as a human.
He needed it, not for another donor to have it.
Right, but the idea is that he's going to make billions off of it because he's going to somehow get all these ultra rich people to buy into it to go live off planet. Like that's his end goal.
But if you're not a perfect match for the thing, then it kills you.
I know, it's very confusing.
I wish you would have explained any of this in the film that I watched.
No, but that's what I mean. Like so much had to have been cut out because it just jumps into like,
that's true.
Like Tom Hardy is like Venom. Like it goes from him being like super sketchy with it, and then the next cut is him like awesome with it and like bantering with himself and like doing these cool moves and like knowing how to control it and everything. And you're just like, what did I miss? Did I black out? But then after that, it gets exponentially more and more like advanced in the story every cut, and you're just like, wow, they either like just rushed this or cut a ton out. But I did like the moments that he was like fighting bad guys and like bantering and like talking back and forth. Like that moment when he actually stopped the mafia guy from shaking down old lady Chan or old lady C or whatever he called her. Yeah, that was actually good, like where he's talking like there's good guys and bad guys, and we only fight bad guys.
That one part.
Yeah,
but I didn't love Venom because they don't introduce you to like Venom, so you hear like this detached voice, which I guess was supposed to like make you feel like Eddie Brock was crazy.
Well, that's how he talks to him in the.
No, I mean that's fine,
right.
But I wish that I would have I'm better as a visual person, so I would have rather have seen like Venom like come into him like sooner.
Talk to him first.
Right, like as a Venom.
Yeah.
Not just as a voice, because like whenever it's a voice, I guess
right.
you're supposed to be like maybe he is going crazy, maybe as the audience. But like I personally just would have liked to have some kind of background on.
Oh yeah, I wish they would have that would have just been the movie.
Maybe they should have just had like Venom coming down in this spaceship instead of like some weird, which you can have that. But like it obviously was a being outside of.
But that is what it is in the comic. Like it's a little slimy, then it slaps onto you, and then
so why does it
crawls
have a
up
face
you.
all of a sudden then?
It has that face solely because it took over Spider-Man first, mimicked Spider-Man, then moved. So inherently, by not having Spider-Man in this,
it's just right.
It is confusing. Yes. So if they could have explained it away by it mimicking something else that resembled Spider-Man, and it would have been like a wink, wink, like. It sucks that they do this stuff, and they do everything marvelly, like even like having Stan Lee in it, where you're just like, wow, why did they bring Stan Lee for his cameo in this? It's just sad, but I don't know. I just wish there was just more. I just wish they would have introduced Tom Hardy with Venom faster, done all the dumb stuff of him getting used to it, and then there's a plot of him needing to use Venom to fight some other guy that is not another symbiote creature thing.
But at the same time, even if we wanted to go with the same symbiote, whatever, it could have been just like one of the random tests got too strong.
Yeah.
And it could have broken out of the facility and killed Reza Mead. And then you'd be like, aw, damn, well, I don't feel that bad because he was a bad person.
Yeah, that's definitely a real fun thing that could have happened in the script and would have been justified because you're like, yeah, that guy sucked anyway. Like, yeah, he deserves.
Now he's killing a bunch of other.
Yeah, he's coming after Michelle Williams, and then he has to, he does the superhero thing of Dan's in trouble too. Michelle Williams and Dan's in trouble, and guess what? Venom has to come in and be like, I want to eat your head off, but I gotta save you, like dumb. Superhero stuff. Like, why can't it just be fun? Like, and that's what was very jarring is that it does start off horror movie, and then there's moments where it's like, wow, this is like jump scare horror movie moments, like when the homeless gypsy lady somehow got infected, and he's like, oh, Mary, remember the scene that we had together long ago, where you were never introduced before or after that, and we have to remember, oh yeah, that's you. You somehow made it to this exact point, and you're just like...
What if Riot took over the homeless woman, Mary?
There you go.
Mary was a perfect match all along. We didn't know it, and then he had to kill Mary, his best homeless woman friend.
What if Riot just took over Dan or Michelle Williams? Because she gets to wear the symbiote for...
2 seconds.
A minute.
Long enough to kiss Tom Hardy. That's all you get.
You're just like, what? Who wrote this? Like, that's all that you think. Like, it's like it was written by someone who's like, okay, yeah, I've dabbled in these. I know who Venom, that character that everyone enjoys, and Batman. Oh, Spider-Man. Yeah, that was a trick. I did know it was a Spider-Man property, and not Batman.
I have also talked to a human being at least once before, so I know how conversations go.
Don't worry. I have observed many humans. And
they literally put this in a robot. That's what it is.
Yeah, it might as well be, because down to the editing, too, it's like, I would love to know, because I know the Rubin dude is a good director. Like, he is a competent director, for sure. But... whenever you're in this machine of like, we got the Marvel property, we're doing it, we're making a like that. It's like you got your this blank check, and the studio is like, this is $1 billion. And then they're like, how do they do it? How do they do it? How does Star Wars? How does Disney do it? And then they're like, all right, yeah, we got to make it. Okay, we got this. You can't go too crazy. Let's get the dude that like is cheap, but like he made up movies that people have liked before. Yeah. I think he also did that we didn't really like that much was but it was competently done from what we saw, the Drew Barrymore show.
Oh yeah, I can see how people like that.
But at least that tonally
Santa Clarita Diet
is unique. Like it's tonally like there are characters that like, oh, that's that character and that's that character, and that makes sense.
And this is the plot, and it's actually getting carried on.
Yeah.
And it's not just happening to
everyone. But this, it's like you could tell that he came on board and he's like, yeah, we'll tweak this scene. He's like, look, I got it. And he thought he was slicker than Sony and the executives.
Slicker than Sony.
Yeah, there you
go.
And he thought he was going to come and be like, Tom, I know this is like the corporate machine, and like, yeah, they want to make $1 billion, but guess what? We're making a great movie. And then they got all the raw footage, and they're like, yeah, we're not using most of this. And he's like, okay. So you just kind of edit the movie without any of my sort of direction. They're like, yes, we just literally set a metronome, and we cut everything that goes past this mark. And you're like, oh, a lot of things aren't going to make sense. And they're like, we don't care. We put Venom on it, and we have the highest opening weekend in October box office. So we know more than you, Ruben.
I want to talk about someone that I'm not attacking because I think she's adorable and fantastic, but poor Jenny Slate. Because
she did good.
I was very excited for her in this, and they kept like her character shrouded in mystery, and I thought that was because like maybe she was going to have a bigger part, but it turns out she's just a side character, which did have a part in the plot, and I understand that, and she did well, and she was great, but I didn't think she seemed like a mom necessarily, and like one of the turning points was that she was going to go to tell someone about what was happening at the foundation because she works for Riz Ahmed, and he's like, how are your kids? And then that scared her up right there. Like it just seemed like such an impersonal thing. Because the only thing you know about her is that she's a scientist, I think, and she works for this company. Oh wait, but she has kids, so I guess we have to be scared of her kids because Riz Ahmed is such a bad guy and he's gonna come after her kids.
Yeah,
it's just a cop out. Like it's just let's make the woman have some kids.
But there was a Venom dog.
Oh, and a Venom little girl.
Yeah. Oh, that whole thing was dumb. Yeah. That little girl didn't have... that is probably the most sickening aspect of the movie, is that it just plays with the idea of child trafficking to Asian countries. I think she came from China. Got on a plane by herself to San Francisco. No one bats an eye. Walks into a private, and that's another thing. This Arazamed's company. They cut to it 10 times. The establishing shot of they're like, look at how cool this looks.
It looked dumb.
They're like, look, it's all glass. It's in the hill. It looks great. And then they cut to it like 10 times. You're like, yeah, we get it. It's the only lab. You can just cut to the lab safely, and we understand that we're in the headquarters of Life Alert or whatever. But this little girl flies from Hong Kong to San Francisco without parents, with an alien strapped to her. Then she walks right into this ultra high tech laboratory. And then also, like, Tom Hardy and Jenny Slate break into it. They don't know who breaks in and steals the symbiote. Don't you have cameras everywhere?
Seriously.
Don't you have cameras like that don't even resemble cameras? And then the other thing is you have 1 million drones. This is like basically a commercial for drones.
Yeah,
like,
I hated that.
And you're just like, this is dumb. Superhero movies aren't supposed to, like, I get that they are supposed to sort of reflect the times, But then they're supposed to take it into fantasy and just do it. Have a lizard person that Venom fights. Like, have the dog character turn into a Venom. Like, have the little dog that gets taken over by a symbiote, like, turn into a dog person symbiote. Who cares at that point? Just make something fun and comic booky. And then have fun with it. But everything has to be serious of like, no, we gotta, for the betterment of human civilization, we have to reach for the stars. And it's like, I get it, but it's a movie.
And so like this big car chase that they have where Venom, Eddie, God, I hate his name.
Brock.
Eddie Brock? Ed Brock.
Eddie Brock.
Eddie Brock.
One most famous punk of character.
Journalist. He finally gets control of like the Venom powers, and he's in a car chase, and Evil Razamid sends his army of drones after him, and these drones are the dumbest drones because all they do is they like explode into some blue flame on impact. They don't even shoot you. There's no flamethrower drones. There's no like slashing drones. Like it's just they have one power, and they fly really close to you, and then they go poof, and they fly really close to pedestrians, and they go poof, and then everyone goes because he's like just bombing people with this. It's not even separate bombs though. The whole drone explodes. So you're just wasting drones.
It's useless. Yeah, it's all very like I just found myself and like more than halfway through the movie being just like, what is like why? Like this is the longest setup in human history for a movie, and then you get a good 10 minutes of like, oh yeah, and that's how people I've seen online. Some people are just like, it was a surprisingly good movie for super low expectations. You're like, it's because it ended with on a decently high point. That's the only reason, because it redeems it. It doesn't redeem itself, but it at least gives you something half entertaining the last 10 minutes, and then it does the stupid thing where it's like they set up the movie that everyone would like to see with Carnage, because who even knows who Riot is? But Carnage is another symbiote character that is attached to a serial killer, and he's the one that's supposed to be able to make knives and blades, and that's why he's so scary, because he's so like sinister and evil that he like manifests instruments of death, and he kills people and stuff. But Venom does like I don't know exactly how it works, but I think just because it manifests like who you are, he's a serial killer. He cuts up people, so his psyche is based on this Carnage serial killer thing. And Eddie Brock isn't necessarily evil; he's just pissed off. But and he's like Spider-Man-esque, so he has like all those features.
Not Spider-Man-esque.
But he's not well,
there's nothing about him that is Spider-Man-esque.
I'm just saying.
Spider-Man. All of his like little sticky web garbage just seems like he's just like making it up out of thin air. That's why I don't like any of this, because you're saying that these other characters are supposed to have like these other villains are supposed to have like personality traits that go with their symbiosis.
Yeah, you should. That'd be a lot of fun.
Right, but Venom doesn't have any of that. There's nothing that like ties like what like so if Carnage makes knives, why does Eddie Brock make anything that he made?
I don't know. See, and that's why that would be a more interesting movie, just learning all that stuff. But then it sets up what movies do now, which is terrible. It sets up a better movie at the end. They're like, but you should come next time and see the good movie, and you're like, but I just watched this movie. Why couldn't you make this movie good? And then I'll also see that movie. But I guess good on you. We'll use Movie Pass, because it was the only movie that they would offer us. Thank you, Movie Pass.
I have a big problem with you, Movie Pass, because I fell for your mafia-esque tactics.
You were being shakedown just like Mrs. C.
I was, because, okay, Movie Pass, I'm going to blow you up for a second here, because this person who got Movie Pass for me lost his debit card, so he had to get a new one.
Our cat stole it.
Joe stole the debit card.
Joe took it into his tunnels like the entity, and Pennywise the clown and the giant spider, and just took it into the tunnels.
So anyway, he lost it. He had a new card, and then I was like, fine, I'll just start paying for my own Movie Pass. It's whatever.
Whatever.
And so I didn't do it for a while, and they had this policy that if you fail to pay your bill for Movie Pass, it doesn't just cancel your account. Because I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I'll just get back on it whenever I feel like it.
Oh yeah.
No, once your account is canceled, you can't get another account with Movie Pass for 9 whole months.
That's tricky.
So even if you let me only see one film at my local movie theater, I have
Venom.
to keep you for 9 whole months.
Yeah.
Until you get your shit together.
Figure it out, MoviePass. Figure it out, Sony. Ruben Fleischer, you keep doing you, man. Don't let the system drag you down. Tom Hardy, I still like you. Michelle Williams, you know, Heath Ledger, it affected us all. And Dan Egan, we'll see you on the Veep.
I'm really excited, Danny Egan. And Jenny Slate.
Jenny Slate, we'll put you in Kasky Limited.
She would be great.
Yeah.
She has such a great voice. She's like a character in Parks and Rec, and she's also in that Big Mouth show we can watch on Netflix.
And she got fired from Saturday Night Live for saying "fuck."
Holla at my girl. I knew I liked her.
Yeah,
I did.
She got fired right away. Instantly forgot she was on live TV.
That's amazing. Good job, Jenny Slate.
Yeah.
I salute you.
And don't go see Venom because
don't see it.
They need to just give up the rights to, Marvel completely so that you can do a proper Spider-Man Venom thing. And
if you did see it, you
wasted
your money.
What a good tactic is, go see another movie, then time it so you can sneak into Venom 2/3 of the way through, and then you see all the good parts.
Yeah. But
there you go.
Even those parts, they were better, but they weren't great.
No, it's really not.
It was really just detached.
It's kind of a bummer. And yeah, don't stay for the after credit sequence because it's just a trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They're just trying to get you to go see the animated Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales.
It would have made more sense if Spider-Man was in this. Why are you showing me a Spider-Man promo when I haven't seen him for the whole film? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's a little strange. Yeah.
They were like, we know people are gonna come see this, and we know they're gonna stay for the credits because it's Marvel. So let's just toss in some random garbage.
Well, no, it's because after credits.com told me that yes, there was something during the credits, and yes, there was something after the credits, and I believe them with my life.
But you know it's gonna be because it's an association with Marvel.
Right.
They do it every time, and I like that they do it because you would like people to see the credits to see everyone who
see all those visual effects folks.
God, there was just
all those visual effects houses
I don't like the
that don't get paid enough. Supposedly, I'm not a producer.
I didn't love the wardrobe because it was really basic.
Whoa. Anyway, Venom.
2 stars out of 10.
Yeah.